to me outboard. It is a 74. It's in either 115 or 150. I looked up the part number on the block, and the block is a 150 part number, but we won't know until I open her up for sure. Make sure it has those power ports. Otherwise, the rebuild kit I'm going to get comes with the ported pistons no matter what nowadays. But we're going to go through a full rebuild for now. I'm actually going to be taking the power head off so I can fix up the whole lower section, and I'm actually going to be swapping that trim unit out and taking that power head off, putting it on this lower. I'm going to swap that over, that way I can actually make use of the trim, which I've already removed the rams. I'm in the middle of rebuilding the first one, and I'll show a video going over rebuilding these. But I'm going to swap this out because this trim unit and setback is not good for this type of boat. So I'm going to get that swapped up, and I'll be able to use that 65 horse for the time being. Eventually, when I do a project that extends the boat, or whenever I get this thing done, I'll decide later, I'll be able to swap the power head over to that one, get it remounted, and then I'll have my 65 horse as well, put off to the side. But here we go, let's get started. Unfortunately, after removing the power head, I found that the bolt or the stud pattern is a little different. It won't line up correctly. So what I'll have to do is swap back to my old 20-inch section. Here you can see I got the engine up right now, overhead. Might try to get that a little bit higher, but it is out of the way of the midsection. Right now I got the lower unit removed. I'm still in process on the trim rams, and we're gonna get this midsection removed. I've already got the cap taken off of here so I can get to the mounts. I'm working on soaking the mounts and slowly getting these loosened so I can pull the midsection out of the way. And then I still got to get these lower mounts off, and those will transfer to the other midsection. I now have the midsection removed, so we're gonna take advantage, get this thing all cleaned up, replace what needs replacement, get it painted and looking good. And down here you got the lower mounts and the upper mounts. I know I will need to transfer the lower mounts for sure, but the upper mounts will probably be staying with this midsection. So I now have the bracket assembly removed from the engine stand. I'm working on getting it all cleaned up. Right now I got it wiped off a lot on the top. It's looking pretty good. Should only need touch up on paint. Now, of course, it won't have the same engine as the serial number on here for the time being, but eventually will. But we're gonna get this cleaned up and touched up on paint where needed. I haven't finished wiping it all down, but yeah, you can see where it's needing some, but otherwise it's in pretty nice shape. While I was going to do a trim gauge on this, looks like I won't be able to, because I cannot get this bracket off. So I cannot change out my sensor in here. So what I'm going to do is just snip off the wire right back here and just have my trim hoses run up through there, and we'll go that way. I did drill these holes out, the upper one, because it does line up with the standard mounting pattern. So I'm going to run the bolt through these, the 1/2-inch bolt, and that way it's got a nice strong connection there on the outsides here. Then it'll have these clamps, and then it'll have the bolts down at the bottom, which those I believe are 3/8 on here. So we will go from there and see what we can do. I'm gonna get this cleaned off and ready for some painting. Like I said, I'm just gonna have to snip that wire right there at the gasket. That way it just stays kind of sealed. But yeah, that's the route I'm gonna have to take. I now have one side painted. I'm gonna let it dry. I just did the second touch-up coat. And we're gonna let that sit till tomorrow. I'll be able to get it turned around and get the back side covered. Make sure it's touched up good. I'll get that cleaned off just to make sure it doesn't cause any issues. And that way it'll feel easy, and I'll get a cap put on that as well. As you can see, we got this remounted onto the engine stand. I don't have it tightened down or anything at the moment. I still want to make sure it cures plenty, because it is humid here too, especially when the sun comes out and then the rain comes and then the sun. Wonderful Kentucky. But we're gonna let that sit, then we're gonna get the midsection installed. So I've already replaced the water pump, the housing. The kit I ordered didn't come with the new housing, so I got this one cleaned up, cleaned off. The surfaces were good, the mating surfaces. I'm a little worried on that, but I got the sling ring that's gonna go over top as well. So I'm getting ready to drain the lower unit fluid, see what it looks like, and then we'll see if we can get the carrier out and take a look at it. Now I haven't pulled the vent cap yet, but it's already dribbling out a nice blue color. A little bit of usage maybe, but not too bad looking. I'm not seeing any metal shavings yet, so that's a good sign. We're gonna get this vent cap removed and see how the rest of it looks. I do have a lot of the fluid taken out already. I put the vent cap back on, or the fill cap back on. I still have the vent cap off, and I'm getting ready to try and pull the carrier and get the rest of it out. I didn't see any chunks in here that were coming out, but it was kind of thick, as you can see, though we are dealing with like 50-degree temps right now outside, so that could be part of it. But we're getting ready to take this off here. Now I have this tool, which this is the generic one for Mercury. I modified the tips on it though, as you can see. This way it actually fits the older gear cases. So anybody that's still using the screwdriver and hammer method, try this. Literally cut it in half and take off the outer half, and it will fit in perfect. So I'm gonna have to go with the wonderful way that everyone knows about in drilling it out and breaking it off and getting that out of there. So stay tuned, the fun part's coming up. Here I've got several drill points already drilled out. I'm gonna go ahead and take a chisel to it and see if I can get these pieces broken out and loose so we can get this out. So you can see here I got some of it knocked out. So I'm gonna finish getting the rest of this pulled out and broke loose, and we can start on the carrier. Hopefully the carrier stays intact, doesn't crack or anything. Trying to get it out, and I'll just replace the bushings. So I've moved it up to the vise, and I've got a piece of plywood in here, and I'm doing the method using the prop to get the carrier out. I've got it soaking in WD-40. I may end up having to spray something else too, but I have it soaking right now with pressure, so hopefully that helps, and we'll check on it tomorrow. So I was having problems getting this to come loose. I didn't want to risk breaking it. I will worry about that later. Everything seems to run pretty smooth. I got the I'm working on trying to pick out the last little bits of stuff out of here, make sure the bushing is clear, otherwise it doesn't look chewed up along the drive shaft or the propeller shaft. I gotta get a lock ring washer ordered. Turns out I thought I had one, turns out I don't. But take this back off, put it back on. I just have it on lightly snugged right now, just to keep the debris out of the threads. I now have the lower unit painted up. I'm gonna let it sit and dry. As you can see, I didn't smooth it out or anything, just some touch-up paint, make it look better for the most part. So I'm gonna do a couple light coats here on the propeller, just so it kind of matches with everything. And we'll see how she does after the rebuild with the paint burn off. So the prop is now painted. Gonna let it sit and dry and cure. I also went ahead and got some of the other component pieces that we're gonna need paint anyway. When putting the washer on, make sure it lines up with the carrier, and it'll fit in just like so. And then this stuff right here, Permatex thread sealant. This is what you want. It is the airplane engine sealant version of the sealant, and this works great with the threads on this lock ring nut. So just like on the outboard rebuild video, or the lower unit rebuild, I put a thin coat of that thread sealant on here. You just want to make sure it's across all the threads and fills them up, but otherwise just a thin coat to get it in the threads. It does not take much. After you secure the lock ring down all the way, you want to take at least one tab and bend it down like I did right here, and that helps lock that into the teeth and keep the ring from moving. And then I've also got the sealant on there, and that will help keep it from moving as well. And I have the prop all secured. Got the lock ring, the tab washer, and the nut. And then the tabs, of course, locked in every other between the grooves, and that helps keep the nut from coming loose. Here's a shot of the first ram. This one is completed on its rebuild and repaint. And now we'll start in on the second one, and I'll show you what I did. So here is a look at the trim ram. As you can see, this is the dual ram trim. I've already loosened these. So let me get these unscrewed. We'll get them pulled out. and see if there's anything I gotta drain out from here. Next, you want to take the plugs and bleeder screws out. So you have those there, and then you got one here and one here. This is a grease fitting for the bolt that runs through. You don't have to worry about taking that off unless you want to replace that. It looks like it may have had a little bit of water in there. The other one didn't look quite as wet, but it did have some fluid that came out. But we'll get this cleaned out and then we'll get to opening it up. Here I now have the tool in a vise. I went ahead and took off the pieces for the trim sensor. I won't be using the sensor, but I'll still put those pieces back into place. Now, to get the piston cover open, you will need a tool like this. This is awesome, off Amazon. It's adjustable, generic. I got the, I think it was the 5mm pin, and sorry, I'm doing this through the camera too. Just slip right in, and it takes some force, so give me a moment. So this is not coming off easy. So what I'm doing is I already sprayed some WD-40 down for where the threads are, and I'm heating up the casing to try and get it to expand some, so that hopefully I can get these threads loose.
3 days later.
So eventually, now I finally have it loose. I had to get essentially a breaker bar and put some extra force on there, and now I can get it loose. Now that we have the cap fully unscrewed, we can pull this out and see how much crud was there, gunking up those O-rings, part of what made it so hard to get out of there. There's a look in there, see how dirty it all is. Sorry, that's hard to see in there. But yeah, this is gonna need some clean out. So now that we have the housing disassembled, I've got it over here. I've got it all cleaned out. As you can see, well, mostly see, it's pretty clean in there. It's hard to tell it. There we go. But yeah, I got that all cleaned out, so I'm gonna let it dry out. Then from there, what you're gonna wanna do is remove this tube from the lower O-ring, and you're gonna loosen this bolt. Now, also keep in mind, if you do not have the tool I'm about to show you here in a minute, you do not want to pull this plunger out. You really want to use the tool for it, or else you risk tearing up this seal, and you're not going to get a good pull push from the piston. So this is the kit I will be using. It is not the correct kit for my trim rams, but all but I think one gasket or O-ring and 2 O-rings. So 2 O-rings won't work from this kit, but the rest will work to get this thing changed out. So like I said, this is my piston that's on this set, and this is the one that comes with the set I bought. I cannot find the 3/4 kits anywhere, so reusing the piston and one of the O-rings, and we'll be able to get it all rebuilt together. And of course, this does come with a full set of instructions detailing exactly how to install all the components. So first we're going to start off with this. I'm going to get all the O-rings off and get these swapped out. So I got the O-rings swapped out on that. You have an O-ring right here, and then it's already out, but another one goes there for the bleeder screws. So here we are with the plunger. As you can see here, the bottom one is my old scraper that was on the piston. This is what the new one looks like. You want to be very, very careful with this. You do not want to stretch it out. I'll show you how to put it on the piston here in a second. When I was removing it, this is another thing you want to be careful of. Right there, trying to remove it, it's very easy to damage. Now I've already changed out the O-ring on the big one. The little one, like I said, that one I can't change out because I don't have the correct kit. So that is one that's going to have to stay. Now as far as slipping this scraper on, like I said, you want to be very careful with it. Slip it on right over the edge and then slide it down to the O-ring. Now here it is, all assembled. I got that slipped on over the O-ring. Now how to put this in. Like I said, that is very, very delicate. You want to be very careful so that way it keeps that seal. So the tool you got to use is this. This sucker is around $80 frickin'. Only a couple sites have it. Wholesale Marine is where I got it. Sucker, like I said, is very expensive, and it took about 2 weeks to finally get, but it makes this install so easy. What you'll do, you take this, you set it up in the correct direction. So this will be the top of the tube away from the piston head. So where that goes on, that's the underside. You'll want to place it in here. You'll see there's a beveled edge. It takes a little bit of work getting that in. You may have to use a screwdriver just to push an edge down. This looks like it's wanting to slip in perfect. So there it is. And then, as you can see, it's all set to go. Now what you'll do is you'll take this tube. Now this is the tube that was on this. So it was mounted on there. You want to take the side that has the bevel. That one has a flat edge, and that has the bevel. You'll take that bevel. You'll put that in the larger opening. Slip that all the way down. Then you'll take something like the base of a hammer. Make sure that stays nice and flat. And that is in the tube. All ready to go, and we'll get that remounted. Back to the cap. The kit didn't come with replacement dust cover boots, but it does have a replacement O-ring for the inner one. So that O-ring we're going to go ahead and make sure to replace, and that helps the seal on the piston ram itself here on the bottom end of the piston. I now have the ram put back in. I got the tube put down onto the base, and I have the bolt secured on the piston. So now the whole thing slides with no problem. Be careful about sliding it around too much, unless you put a little bit of lube in there. Just help protect it some. We now have this secured back in using that same tool. Attached it in the vise right over here and tightened it down again with this tool. This thing is awesome, adjustable, Amazon, like 15-20 bucks. And like I said before, that's a 5mm pin, I believe, and that fits almost perfect. All right, next step is to get these caps and plugs put back in with the O-rings, and then it's on to paint for this. Now got it back in the vise and I'm getting ready to paint it. I have it set up on this back corner is covered, so that is my least likely spot to get paint. I'm going to try to get it like I did on the other, under here, down here for the top of it, and then of course the whole rest of the body. Get the first coat on. I'm gonna let it sit for a little bit, do a second coat, and then let it dry till tomorrow, and then I'll be able to take it off of here and get her hooked up on the bracket. And I now have both trim rams hooked up, all ready to go. I still have the holes plugged right now on both sides, just until I hook up the actual cables, or the hoses, on the final hookup. And here's a look at the midsection. I need a tad bit of touch up and a good wipe down, but it's pretty much all ready. I've got the lower mounts already attached. I'll just have to take off that cover so I can hold that bolt in place when I tighten down those nuts. And then the upper right here, I was actually able to find this on eBay. There's one complete unit that includes the exhaust tube and the water tube for a pretty decent price. So that way I already have this set up, don't have to pull anything off of that for this. And then I've already got the old shift tube, which will go right there. I've got the larger power head out the way for the time being. I got it strapped down here on the back of the engine stand. That way I have the hoist free. So I'll be able to get that going here shortly. So now I'm going to go ahead and get the midsection mounted up. Do not forget your washers. They go on the lower studs between that and the base there. So just make sure you have those on there. Make sure to leave these bolts a little bit loose so it gives this a little bit of shifting room till you have those in the slots, and then you can tighten it down after you slide the whole thing on. After you get those in place and you get those to slide in a little bit, you can take a rubber mallet and just lightly tap it back and forth until you get it all the way on. I now have the midsection mounted. Everything fits perfect. As you can see, everything mounts good down here. I still got to put the safety loop on, put the covers on, and then this is all ready to go. So before I do this swap on the boat itself, I'm going to have to take the outboard back out. I have a lot of fuel in here and I have to pull the deck back
and pull the fuel tank back out the way in order to get to where I can get the brackets to the bolts for the brackets. So I still got to take this out one more time. I'll be able to get some video showing the issues I'm having with that sucker right now, and be able to show you comparison of how it is after I do this swap. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to hit that like button. If you're not a subscriber, make sure to hit subscribe so you can get notifications about my future content. I will have part 2 coming out here before long. I just didn't want to make this super long compared to some of my previous videos. So stay tuned, and I will see you next time.